In our state, everything can be used to make money for personal benefit, and the foresters succeeded in this. The forest fire in the Krasnoyarsk Forest District was used by Mr. Manoilo, who at the time was the director of the Izum Forestry Enterprise. Using the fire as an excuse, he proved the necessity of making the fire prevention breaks of the maximum width of 200 meters. So wide rides crossed the woodland like deep scars. The fire prevention breaks areas were cut down within several years' time. Such things are done quickly around here. The total area of the fire prevention breaks is 1,300 hectares. Note that the area of the Krasnoyarsk burnt wood area that was felled is 1,300 hectares, and the total area of the fire prevention breaks in the Izum district is also 1,300 hectares. The creation of the fire prevention breaks served several purposes. Firstly, so that the breaks could execute their fire prevention function, the soil had to be plowed annually. The process, known as soil mineralization, a very expensive one. Izum Forestry Enterprise could never afford it, because the profits were consciously minimized. There were plans to use the state budget funds for the mineralization. However, this idea is still being discussed. But one of the main goals of creating the fire prevention breaks was to reduce the value of the unique territory, which was planned for the National Landscape Wildlife Reserve, Izum Luka. The decision was taken on the 20th of November 1997. The 26,000-hectare designated area was considered a unique forest complex in the steppe region, the habitat of rare species of birds and reptiles. For over 100 years, numerous scientists have been writing about the value of this territory. Without a doubt, this is the most precious place from the point of view of the protected species concentration in the Kharkiv region. The legal document of the 20th of November 1987 clearly stated the following: the activity which could destroy or disturb valuable nature complexes and objects planned for reservation in future is forbidden on the areas planned for nature reservation without the agreement with State Administration of Environmental Protection in the Kharkiv region. Although it was the State Administration of Environmental Protection in Kharkiv region that helped the foresters to start acting and break the law. Furthermore, Mr. Manoilo by this time got promoted to the position of the Regional Forestry and Hunting Administration Director General, which is not surprising as everything that had been cut down was sold. He made it clear to the Administration of Environmental Protection and the laboratory of the Institute of Ecological Problems that no compartment of pine forest was to be given for the regional park. Its scientific value was looked down upon. Surprisingly, the Administration of Environmental Protection was not going to show Mr. Manoilo any resistance. The beautiful Ukrainian Research Institute of the Ecological Problems, more specifically its Laboratory of Monitoring Specially Protected Conservation Areas, headed by Alexander Klimov, elaborated the regional park project with the area of 12,000 hectares only instead of 26,000 hectares. In the meantime, the Administration of Environmental Protection was calmly observing the compartments of old forest, the would-be reserve, getting felled one after another and being taken away on the timber lorries. As a result, the unique woodland was disappearing fast and eventually turned into what we're looking at today. More to come, the project featuring 12,000 hectares of woodland also wasn't approved by the Regional Council, Housing and Communal Services, Construction and Ecology Committee, where Mr. Manoilo was an influential player. Remember, his intention was not to let the regional park establishment mess with his plans. So the Ukrainian Research Institute of the Ecological Problems sort of elaborated a new, smaller project, where the whole terrace of the precious old forest, originally part of the older version of the project, was not taken into account at all. This meant it was okay to fell this old woodland. The regional landscape park Izum Luka was turned into a 5,000-hectare narrow area of alder and oak forest stretching along the Seversky Donets River. It was the impossibility and the reluctance to stand up to the forestry officers rather than scientific arguments that made the Administration of Environmental Protection indulge in such a drastic and ignorant project cutting. However, there was more to go. Mr. Pavlenko, the director of the Izum forestry enterprise, didn't give his approval and signed the project during several years. All that remained of the 26,000 hectares of the territory meant for the nature reserve was now the planning for the 2,300 hectare park.
The main thing for us is that only we will be the lots on our own land. This won't happen. I will win.
The other way later in the count.
You can probably hear behind me, it's making it very difficult.
The revolutionary events of the latest Ukrainian presidential elections forced Mr. Manoilo, the Director General of the Regional Forestry and Hunting Administration, to leave his post after half a year of hiding in the hospital. His former subordinate, Mr. Pavlenko, the director of the Izum forestry enterprise, urgently changed his position on the park issue. As the result, on the 23rd of December 2005, the 5,000-hectare regional landscape park Izum Luka project was approved at the session of the regional council. The council decision foresaw the determining of the park areas that would be treated as reserves, as well as the assigning the park administration since the beginning of 2007. However, at present, the park has no administration. The same economic activity is being carried out on the protected area of the reserve, and the hunters haven't even felt that the park had been created. But this is a crime, you may remark. It is undoubtedly so. The government program on the establishment of the ecological conservation network in Kharkiv region has been consciously sabotaged. The regional landscape park Izum Luka had to be created in 2003, but it hasn't really been established even now. The issues of nature protection are not being raised on principle in the Izum forestry enterprise. In 2004, in the Izum forestry enterprise, 60,000 cubic meters of timber were felled and sold for the sum of 7.5 million hryvnias, more than $1 million. It might be interesting to know that the foresters became so impudent that in 2005 they planned to twice increase the so-called sanitary fellings and improvement fellings. What sanitary fellings meant really was disguising the cutting down of the natural Izum forests, in particular natural pine barrens. And, as if making a sacrilege, laughing upon hundreds of scientific studies, Mr. Pavlenko receives an award from Mr. Arsen Avakov, the head of the Kharkiv regional administration. It seems to me that Avakov had simply been deceived. The thing is, the farmer who harvests crops puts his own money and efforts into growing it first. Mr. Pavlenko, on the contrary, just managed cutting down millions of dollars worth of forests, which had been planted and grown by others for the last 150 years. But people in this country like showing off. Hold a reward worker. Under Mr. Pavlenko's rule, all available forests are quickly logged in the Izum forestry enterprise. Now we will see the behavior of the government inspector, who came for a check, but is not willing to state that the violations of law are taking place. He honestly admits that it would not lead to any consequences.